Hey folks, I'm just in the live room and we're doing some edits in the control room through there. So I thought now would be a good time for us to meet Mr. Richard Kass, the man.
How's it going?
Yeah. Thanks everyone who's watching.
Thanks. Is there any names? Can we see?
No, we got one viewer, two. That's it. They're coming, man. By their 1,000.
The whole mailing list is now logged on.
That's it. Yeah.
Welcome.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about all of your drums. I mean, first of all, there's so many different, beautiful looking microphones and things on the drums, but I can already see, the most obvious thing to me are these,
the Crotales.
over the top. Yeah, Crotales. So what do they do?
So they're kind of like a very fancy glockenspiel, for want of a better description. They're, pitched, tuned cymbals or bells, and this is like 1 octave chromatic. Although often when I play them, they're meant to be played with these very hard nylon beaters. But the reason I've got them is it allows me to play some pitched percussion whilst playing the drums at the same time. So I have to play them with sticks, so the best way to get a good sound out of them is actually to hit them with the shoulder of the stick. So you go like... as opposed to if you play it like on the tip, you'll get a lot of pitch.
Matt, so if you had some sort of vintage jazz cymbal and someone started hitting it like that with the side of the stick, you'd probably be like, you'd tell them not to, right? Because that's...
Yeah.
Or is that okay to do?
I mean, like, it creates a certain sound. As long as you're not, like, destroying it, it really opens up the cymbal when you play with the shoulder,
Sure.
It's actually quite a pleasant sound for getting, like, a sort of thicker sound. But, like, these aren't really supposed to be played with sticks, like drumsticks. And if you play them with the tip, like you might play the cymbal for brighter stuff, then you get... especially as you get to the higher ones. They don't cut through, so you have to sort of whack them, and that makes it kind of. There's a couple of like the tune we just recorded, which is called Stellar. It's got this really fast unison line that we all play together, and it's really hard to play at the tempo we recorded it because you're like running around like that.
Right, because of the angle. That you have to get.
You don't get any rebound, so as opposed to like it coming off and you leap in between the notes, you've got to sort of use your arms to play the notes. It's pretty honking.
Okay.
But this has been pretty cool because this was like the first time I was able to incorporate some pitch into the drum set to have this sort of hybrid sort of drums and percussion setup, if you will. And there's a track we're recording tomorrow called Apostrophe. And it was like, it uses the Crotales a lot. It starts off with these pitches played between the piano and the drums across this like shifting form, and the Crotales are sort of displaced from the piano, and slowly the drum kit enters in unison with these like heavy lines, and the Crotales sort of like get more and more sparse, and the drum kit gets more and more kind of dominant. So that's probably the piece where I've used it the most, and that's quite exciting.
Awesome.
Quite enjoyable to do.
So if you want to hear these beautiful bells and Crotales,
Littler people. Actually, I should probably say while we're on this, the whole reason I've got these Crotales is because I've got an endorsement with Sabian cymbals.
Whoa, you lucky boy.
So thank you, Sabian, because without them, I have 2 octaves of these. This is the high octave, and I have a lower octave at home. And Crotales are very expensive to buy, so without them, there's not a chance I'd have these. And also, we might use a gong on some stuff in the recording, and again, I wouldn't have a gong without them. So these are Sabian, and these cymbals are all Sabian. The holes, like, it became like quite hip in the, I guess, like 2010s onwards, to put these holes in the cymbals. It makes them kind of sort of trashier.
Go play that one. Let's see this one. Okay, yeah. And now play a non-holy one.
But there's there's a big difference between this cymbal and this cymbal, even without the holes.
Sure.
But the thing that the holes does do is it tends to make the cymbals like open up really quickly. So I have another one of these. Let me show you actually, because this is kind of interesting. Just wait there a second. I set the interesting show and tell back here.
Yeah. Please do. I also want to show everyone these beautiful mics here. These Neumann, I think they're Neumann KM184s, are they? KM184s, yeah, they sound great on guitar as well. Little tip for any guitar nerds.
They're the only mics I will use on the Cratales.
Really?
No, not really, but they do sound good on the Crows.
Okay, so this one's half holes and half full.
Yeah, so as is this one here, but this is like a cymbal that Sabian custom made for me. It's got this cool little custom shop logo.
Amazing.
And so they make this cymbal here, which was designed in collaboration with Dave Weckl. It's called the Legacy Ozone Ride. So it's got half holes, half no holes.
Yeah.
And it's got a nice blend of being quite a dark kind of jazzy sounding cymbal, but having a bright stick attack, which makes it kind of cut through. But they didn't make a 22 inch. This is a 20 inch, and they also tended to make them a little bit thicker than this one. So like, it's just a little bit more brittle. And I said to them, I think it was when in 2020, just before lockdown, when we were away on tour with Evelyn and Co.
Yeah.
We were playing some of the new compositions that are on the album, and I thought it'd be really nice to have a cymbal which sounds like that, but like it works really well with mallets and works really well, like to almost sound like a crash. So I contacted Sabian and said, "Hey, do you make one of these but in a 22 inch and thinner?" And they said, "No, but we can make you one if you want." So they made me the cymbal, and it arrived, and we've already used it on one track on the Anthro Prelude, which we recorded today, which I play with mallets, and it'll definitely be on another couple.
That's a Anthropology Prelude that we have a version of Anthropology, obviously really kind of reconstructed and everything. And Rich Harrold's written a prelude to it, and that was sounding nice earlier. It was the first thing we did. I think we finished it today, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was good.
You were saying, so we used that beautiful cymbal they made for you.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing with the holes. It kind of makes things a bit trashier, a little bit more kind of fierce sounding, I guess. And for some of the tracks that really doesn't work, but I guess on this album versus the last one, sort of trying to play a bit more kind of colourfully and texturally with the cymbals, and these kind of worked for like opening up very quickly for some of the music that's going on. So that's kind of cool. And like, in case anyone's wondering about the specific models, like I'm sort of chopping and changing between different tracks, but what you actually see set up is loosely what I normally use. So these are Artisan 14-inch light hi-hats. This is a Legacy 20-inch Ozone Ride. This is a hand-hammered 22-inch Pandora.
Wow,
This
that
is
sounds nice.
HHX Evolution Ozone Crash 18-inch. And then obviously this is the high octave set of Cratales, and use like some little bells and things. These bells are actually they're from some Sabian cymbals, but they were custom made by a chap called Ben Camp, who's a total legend.
Oh yeah, we met him. He came to one of the concerts, didn't he?
He did. He came to Devises. Do you remember?
Yeah, Devices down in the West Country.
Yes. What was Margaret Bryant was the person that organised that gig from memory. I think that's right.
Thank you, Margaret, for a lovely
Margaret.
gig.
So these are like, I think they're water blasted to give them that. But anyway, we put these on different drums and different sounds.
Yeah.
And yeah,
you got a bunch of snares there, man. You're using two snares in one song, and I can see another snare over on the floor. Maybe they're even more lurking, but yeah, what's that about?
Well, it's always good to bring a bunch of options.
Yeah.
I think on the last album I had this huge drum set with all these different things, and actually now it's kind of quite a lot smaller, but maybe we're shipping a few things in and out. But this is kind of interesting actually, this snare here. Basically this aux snare is tuned low and will be played with my Sabian 14-inch Hoop Crasher on it, which was kind of invented by Jojo Mayer, who's an amazing drummer. So this is probably only going to get used on one track, which is a track called 5, which is based on 4 And that's attributed to Miles, but did Miles write that one?
I can't remember. It might be one of those ones by Victor Thingy.
Yeah, so not sure, but that'll probably be on the track 5 on the album if anyone is listening.
Yeah, you want to hear that?
We'll put it 5th in the listing. Very clever. So I'm only using this on one. This is a Brady she-oak drum made by a guy in Australia, and that was sold to me by a friend of mine called Joe Crabtree, who used to play this drum with that band Wishbone Ash, and also is the inventor and owner of Polynome, which is a brilliant metronome.
Ah, amazing.
Yeah, and it's a metronome I use quite a lot actually. It's an amazing tool, and when working on some of this stuff, I would quite frequently use Polynome. So Joe Crabtree, if you're watching, thanks for the snare drum, and thanks for Polynome.
Yeah. Hey man, am I right in thinking Polynome is the one where it records how much you practice?
Yeah.
And busts your chops.
Yeah. You haven't practiced in 24 hours or 48 hours. Yes.
Usually I'm already feeling guilty. I'm like, I know, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Richard, before you go on, a lot of people on the stream are asking, who is Tom Crean? And would you say that recording a trio HLK album is a little bit like nearly dying when you travel to one of the poles?
So, gosh, I wish I'd quickly done a bit of revision on this. But this Tom Crean was an Antarctic explorer, and he was on 2 of the most famous expeditions. Let me get this right. He was on Shackleton's.
Wow.
Oh gosh, he was on the Shackleton expedition, the Endurance one, where the boat froze and he got all the men back alive in the end, and they had to walk for a while, and then he sailed to Elephant Island, and then they eventually got to South Georgia Island and the whaling station, and it took him 3 or 4 attempts with different boats to eventually get his men back. So he was on that crazy one, and he was also on Scott's second expedition, where obviously Scott died having made the pole after Amundsen, but that happened. The Scott one was first, so I think he was on those 2. I don't think he was on Shackleton's Nimrod expedition. But anyway, he's basically on the 2 most famous Antarctic expeditions of all time, and he was from Ireland. And I think when he eventually retired,
County Kerry.
Yeah, he eventually moved back there and opens this place, the South Pole Inn, which I've never been to, but during lockdown, I've always wanted to go. And during lockdown, they've been selling T-shirts and things, I think, to try and stay open like a lot of places. And because I always want to go, and I'm quite big into my Antarctic exploration history, I bought a shirt. So that's who Tom Crean is.
Awesome. Yeah, Kass, Richard Kass, that's him, by the way. He recommended a book called The Worst Journey in the World, which is about one of those expeditions, if you're interested. Let's just check. Hey, Rich, Harrold, do we need to do anything? Do we need to do any work?
I'm going to record a little piano intro thing now.
Do we need to be quiet? Should we go out? Should we go out there, Kass, and continue?
Yeah. I'll point out one thing.
Man.
So, 2 things I want to say. First one is, as well as Sabian cymbals, I'd like to say a big thanks to Evans drumheads, using coated G1s all around, and Vater drumsticks. I'm using the Classics 8D Jazz. And if you go onto like the Vater YouTube channel or their website or whatever, and you look for the stick, there's a video of me playing them. I talk about them a bit. And also Porter and Davis, who make the tactile modeler that I use. But last thing I want to point out before we go, this snare drum is made by a guy in Bo'ness called Fraser Murray. So we village in Scotland, and he makes these handmade drums, and this one's made from African blackwood, Scottish boxwood, and a Chinese wood called Gold Phoebe.
Wow.
It's extremely hard, and it's made from loads of different segments. It's pretty cool.
Wow, what an amazing drum. Yeah, you can see all the colours on the side there.
Yeah, you can see all the different segments. Anyway, Fraser's like a master craftsman, and it was...
Mate, just give us one hit. Let's just hear it. I mean, it won't come out too well through the computer microphone and all that, but...
Okay. This was made especially for my 30th birthday.
Wow.
I know, I can't believe it, I'm 30. And it's got like, it's got my name on this side, so it's pretty cool. Anyway. Ooh.
That's nice, man.
Cool. So, we better go through the other room.
Right, we got Richard. We're going to get in trouble because the most important thing that we do this week is record, not talk. So, I can see he's giving me a look. So, let's clear off. Rich, let's talk a little bit more about your approach, because one thing that's really interesting to me about your setup is that you're changing the setup for each song, which I did on the last album. I remember using like a Telecaster and a Strat and all that kind of thing. And on this album, I'm kind of using one main guitar, which I'll show people. I'm using loads of effects and things, but it's interesting hearing how people approach like, getting a load of sounds and keeping the variety over the course of an album, which is like one work, but it's also a collection of smaller movements and having consistency and all that. So yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more. And you can, if we see any changes in your setup, you can tell us about them.
Cool.
Hey, thanks everyone for watching. Good
Thank
people of the internet, and we'll see you. We'll probably see you tomorrow. This might be it. We've only got another 20 minutes or so in the studio today. We'll promise we'll let you hear a little bit of music as well.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. If anyone has any thoughts on things they'd like us to chat about or show you this week, just leave it in the comments. We're going to try and check them periodically. So
we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'll do our best to pick out some stuff to chat about or cover things people want to hear about the creative process or anything else.
So with inspiration from Tom Crean and Mr. Jimi Hendrix, we leave you. See you tomorrow.